what's your favorite stock character?
Oh, okay. So like a specific person or like an archetype?
Like an archetype.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. It's weird to think about stock characters in the modern era.
Yeah, it's not used as much anymore. But honestly, it is. We just think about it less, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so I would argue that a lot of characters that we see in like sitcoms and stuff like that start off as stock characters, just like, oh, that's the nerd guy, you know?
Sure. Actually, you know what stock character I like?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was out, but they pulled me back in. That kind of a guy, you know?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like a grizzled,
yeah, like I'm too old for this.
Yeah. I was supposed to be retired.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
fine. I'm coming back for my 9th banana pie eating contest.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperator and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Yeah, all Kyle watches are shows about banana pie eating contests.
And people are really, really grizzled about it, you know?
It's a serious life.
Yeah.
You know what's not serious? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Emily Moyers.
And I'm Kyle Imperator. And I would argue that this show is very unseriously serious, you know?
I would say we're very seriously unserious.
And that's where you and I differ, Emily. And that's why this is the final episode of Butter No Parsnips.
We can't keep saying that. People think it's true.
No one's gonna think it's true.
Kyle, can I have a word?
I've got a great word for you today. It's a beautiful word.
Oh, chef's kiss.
Emily, your word today is soubrette. Soubrette. Soubrette.
Soubrette.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a tiny sparrows? A spret?
A spret? A spret? Wait, I thought you meant like the bird, but you're talking about the
no sparrows.
Chain Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Sparrows.
A particularly small one is a spret.
It's at a very small train station, you know.
I do, though. We're about to get a sizable donation from Sparrows because you graced it by calling it an Italian restaurant.
Yeah. I'm the first one, too, you know? Ever.
Yeah, but this is soubrette.
Soubrette.
So I heard a word, sobriquet, and I don't super know what it means, but that was my immediate thought when I heard this word. But it doesn't tell me anything because I don't know what that word means either.
That's fair. I may not tell you because we could do that on now that I know you don't know that word, I might do it for another episode.
I just can't remember it at this moment, but I've heard it in context. Is this a noun?
This is a noun, yes.
All right, I'll take one big stab and then I'll ask for a hint. I feel like this has got to be, I'm getting like a musical vibe.
Interesting.
I think a soubrette is it like a type of piece? A type of musical composition?
No, it is not, Emily. Okay. I do like the path that you're heading down, genreifically, but definition-wise, you're on the wrong path.
All right. I will take a hint. And also, is this Italian? French?
It is French in origin. Although there's some Italian influence here as well, which you'll find out.
All right.
But Emily, your hint is Bedelia.
Whoa. Whoa. Boy, does that throw a wrench in any thought process I might have had. Okay, so just gonna have to rifle through everything I remember about my good friend Amelia. Was a big fan, by the way, of Amelia Bedelia when I was a child.
I mean, how could you not be? The chaos that she brought with her.
Absolutely.
As someone who was supposed to clean up messes, it was just like, wow, you got the wrong idea about this whole thing, huh?
What did you say about my first guess, did you say I was close with the thinking it might be musical?
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding like you're lying.
I'm not lying. I don't know if that's helpful to you, but it's correct.
Okay. Oh, okay. Maybe soubrette, does it have to do with rhyming, like Amelia Bedelia? Is it like a lyrical thing? Like a soubrette is a rhyme. I'm sure not it, but I can't come up with a better guess than that.
I mean, you're saying like a word that rhymes with itself, maybe.
No.
Okay, well, you're wrong either way. So, Emily, no. Unfortunately, we're going down a way different path today.
Okay.
A soubrette is a lady's maid or a maid servant. Or, by extension, it became, in theater, a female attendant or lady's maid as a character in a play or opera, especially one who is cheeky, mischievous, or coquettish.
Fantastic. I forgot about the question at the beginning.
Which was about stock characters, yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, Emily, I'm so excited about this episode. I was going ham. There's so much to talk about. There's so much we can talk about today, but you're going to love this.
Okay, amazing.
So, soubrette was borrowed from the French noun soubrette, meaning maid or female servant, from the Occitan or Provençal word soubretta, meaning affected or conceited. And it was the feminine form of soubrette, meaning coy or reserved, from Occitan soubra, meaning to set aside, and originally meaning to exceed.
Oh. If soubrette is coy, you said?
Coy.
So I think that word sobriquet, I think it might mean like a disguise or like an identity.
A sobriquet is a nickname, which is the word you're thinking of. It may have other meanings, and it may be related, but it'll take me a little bit longer to figure that out. So, actually, let me just really quickly. We don't know the origin of it, so I can't even tell you if it's related. But yeah, a sobriquet is a nickname, or sobriquet.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard.
So anyway, Emily, back to soubrette. I said that it came from Occitan and Provençal. Do you know those languages? Have you ever heard of them?
They're like ancient languages in France.
Yeah, you got it. Occitan is a Romance language, still spoken mainly in southern France, though now it's limited to less than 100,000 speakers as of 2012. And it's spoken in some other provinces too. It's spoken in Catalonia, I believe, and, a couple other, random spots. Provençal is a dialect of Occitan that's spoken in the Provence region of France. Yeah. But it's sometimes used to refer to Occitan as a whole. So it's hard to tell which language they're referring to when I was looking this up. So I just figured I'd throw them both in there.
Sure.
Anyways, the Occitan subra comes from the Latin superare, meaning be above, from the Proto-Italic superos, meaning upper, ultimately from the Proto-Indo-European up, meaning above. And Emily, if you were thinking that the English super might be related here, you'd be correct. Comes from the Latin. And also the English over comes from the same Proto-Indo-European root.
From oop?
From oop.
Wow.
Up, not related though.
That's crazy.
Yep, from Proto-Germanic.
That's crazy.
So Emily, the word comes from the French word for maid, but its use in theater originates elsewhere. This is where I ask you the question, Emily. Do you know, what do you know, I should say, about Commedia dell'Arte?
I know a little bit. I know all of those Italian stock characters that's what that is. The Harlequin being the most famous one, but there were others. Famous, yeah. I think I talked about them in a past episode somewhere. But yeah, all those Italian characters with like the costumes with funny colors and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Harlequin. Yes, from the Italian Arlecchino was the stock character. He was a jester-like servant who was an acrobat. Yeah. But that was like a stock character in Commedia dell'Arte. We didn't mention it because I didn't have time to talk about it. But when we're doing the episode on miasma, there's evidence that the mask of the plague doctor influenced stock characters in Commedia dell'Arte.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and costumes there. But anyway, for those of you at home who are unfamiliar with Commedia dell'Arte, it was a form of Italian theater popular in the 16th through 18th centuries that featured masked performers playing stock characters or characters made recognizable through stereotype. So they didn't have like a set personality per se, but since they were wearing a certain mask or wearing a certain costume, people immediately knew that's this guy. This is his role in the show.
Right. And he's going to like play a certain part.
Exactly. And he's got a certain personality. For example, there were the innamorati, or the two high-class, hopeless lovers, and there was the greedy, wealthy old pantalone, the
Pants.
pants. The innamorata's father, who was always scheming to keep the lovers apart.
Oh.
Emily, from pantalone, we get the English word pantaloon, which first meant an aging buffoon, but then came to refer to the type of tight-fitting trousers that the character wore, and eventually evolved into our modern-day pants.
Crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
What a weird trajectory for a word.
It's so strange. It's wild.
But like the split of like an old man versus trousers is from this stock character?
From this stock character.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah. But the archetype that is relevant today, Emily, is the serving maid role, originally called the soubretta from the French, and then later fantesca and servetta, both Italian for maid. The role was usually the attendant of the innamorata, or the female lover, and had many different names over time, but the name that ended up sticking for the character was Colombina, from the Italian for small or young dove. That later came to French as Colombine, and then into English as Columbine. So there's a lot of, pantomime characters with Harlequin and Columbine as the characters. But the soubretta role evolved out of a dancing role that provided entertainment with a tambourine during the entr'acte, which was the period of time between acts of the play where there wasn't play going on, right?
Like entr'acte with an apostrophe, right?
Yeah. And earlier renditions of the character were older, lustier, and more buxom than later versions, who, as well as being younger and more graceful and engaging, were less overtly sexual.
That's male expectations of women for you right there.
That's male expectations of women.
We want them to be hotter, but we don't want them to know it.
Emily, oh boy, is that the story of this episode?
Oh, good.
So Colombina and other servette were capricious and coquettish with the manservants, very bright, and perhaps the only one in the play to behave at all in a rational manner. She kept close to earth, had always a ready and none too squeamish word for everyone, and in love speeches to her adorers, parodied ludicrously enough her mistress's romantic flights. So she was smart, funny, sassy, strong-willed.
Heck
she made fun of her mistress, She's like, oh, she's always in love, It's so dumb.
It's funny because she's like the female servant, so like Harlequin should be Super Quinn instead.
Super Quinn?
Yeah.
Well, Harlequin, the stock character, came first before the soubrette role. And then later Colombina and other serving maid characters evolved, honestly, out of the fact that women started to be allowed to have speaking roles in the plays. Because originally they were, the reason why the women in the shows were played by men, because they weren't allowed to speak, right?
Yes. But I guess I was thinking the character Harley Quinn is from Harlequin.
Oh,
but Harlequin was the male servant.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah,
but also Harlequin was a jester, you know?
And like the more famous character through time.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Anyway, Emily, since early traditions, as I stated earlier, restricted the amount of time that a highborn woman should appear on stage, many of the innamorata's scenes were conducted by the lower status servetta by proxy. So, like, the Colombina would have these parody love scenes with the Harlequin, and it would stand in for the love scenes between the two lovers. And it attached these themes of substitution, disguise, and intrigue to Colombina's character, because she was always associated with kind of like being disguised as someone else.
Interesting. That's fun.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Emily, so as Commedia dell'Arte troops traveled Europe, the art form had widespread influence, especially on the comedies of French playwrights, such as the playwright Molière. Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think I have.
It's a mononymic French playwright, Molière, writing in the 1600s.
Like Zendaya.
Like Zendaya. Molière is Michi.
You got it. Perfect.
For example, Emily, Molière's best-known play, his 1664 Tartuffe ou l'imposteur, or Tartuffe, or the impostor, or the hypocrite, depending on how you translate it. This play featured the housemaid Dorine, who helps to expose Tartuffe's hypocrisy. Dorine has a great bit with her mistress, Marianne. She asks Marianne what she's going to do about the guy her father wants her to marry. And Marianne dramatically states, "To kill myself if it is forced upon me." To which Dorine retorts, "Good, that's a remedy I hadn't thought of. Just die and everything will be all right."
Love it.
She's like, wow, you could be sassy in the 1600s, huh?
That is another, like, stock character, like the old sassy woman who's like, "You idiot child."
I feel like that has evolved more recently thanks to the Golden Girls, but yeah. Anyway, Emily, these soubrette roles translated easily over to opera from straight plays. An early example is Giovanni Battista Pergolesi's 1733 La Serva Padrona, or The Maid Turned Mistress, in which the maid servant Serpina has become so comfortable with her master, the elderly bachelor Uberto, that she begins to boss him around as if she were the mistress. And when Uberto threatens to marry someone else so that he can get rid of his maid, she ends up tricking him into marrying her. And then he just realizes that he's loved her the whole time.
Oh, delightful.
Yeah.
That's like a 50s musical.
It really is very 50s musical, right?
It's a farce.
Yeah, like you can see the line. It's like, wow, that is a character from a Gershwin play.
Absolutely.
And then in 1778, Pierre Beaumarchais' La Folle Journée ou le Mariage de Figaro, or The Mad Day, or The Marriage of Figaro.
I feel like I've heard of The Marriage of Figaro.
Later to be adapted by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart into his famous opera Le Nozze di Figaro, The Marriage of Figaro, which is where most people know it from.
Got it.
This play brought us the soubrette, Suzanne, who plays into the disguise themes when she and her mistress, the Countess Rosine, swap outfits in order to catch the master, the Count Almaviva, who's been trying to sleep with the maid. Basically, the whole play is like, have sex with me. And she's like, no, I'm married to Figaro. And the Countess is like, he's doing what now? Get in my costume.
I feel like every play in the Renaissance era is a disguise farce.
It comes from Commedia dell'Arte. It's their fault. It's Colombina's fault.
Like, I feel like so many, like, every Shakespeare play has some sort of disguise arc in it. Loads of others, yeah.
Shakespeare, heavily influenced by Commedia dell'Arte.
That makes sense now. Now I can put a reason to it.
Now you can be like, next time you see a Broadway musical, be like, Commedia dell'Arte.
Commedia dell'Arte.
And everybody in the audience would be like, shut up.
Yeah, I'm like mumbling that and stroking my chin through the whole show. Columbinas.
I'll be yelling that at Wicked this weekend. So, Emily, in opera, as the maid-servant roles often required younger women with high voices who would then grow out of the role as they aged, a soubrette became a soprano who sings supporting roles in comic operas. But more importantly, it also became a sweet, bright soprano voice type. So when you're separating all of the voice types for sopranos, a soubrette is a voice type for the sopranos. And it separates itself from other sopranos like the agile coloratura sopranos, who could sing difficult ornamentation patterns, or the warm lyric sopranos, who often play the ingenues in operas.
Interesting. I didn't know there were voice types within vocal ranges.
Oh yeah, they're also called Fachs, F-A-C-H-S, because the guy who did voice types was German, who wrote the handbook on it.
Interesting. That's super cool. Now I wonder what my voice type is / was
Possibly
when I was
soubrette.
singing on a regular basis.
Emily, I found an 1800s work entitled Pictures of the French. That includes a bunch of different profiles on French stereotypes written by famous French authors.
When you said pictures of the French, I was going to say what I'm picturing is like caricatures of Frenchmen, but what you said sounds like that is what it is.
Yeah, it's literary caricatures of French people, literally.
Excellent.
Yeah. And written by French people so they know them best.
They're allowed to say it.
They're allowed to say it, yeah. Which means I'm allowed to say I'm allowed to repeat it, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Anyway, in this text, in the section, The Artist's Friend, which is about the caricature of the artist's friend, like the hanger-on to the theater troops, it was written by a man named Francis Way, and he relates, the rivalry between the singing soubrette and the prima donna causes an infinity of disputes, unless, indeed, the singing gentleman of the troupe has prudently confiscated the latter to his own use, as is usual in French theatrical politics. So he's basically saying the soubrette, who's like the young woman, like in the troupe, in the theater troupe, and the prima donna, who's like the more mature, like leading actress type singer, argue with each other about who they get to date, unless the singing gentleman in the troupe starts dating the prima donna, and then everybody's kosher.
Boy, there's just always drama in a show,
It's true. You really can't get around it. That started, theater kid drama started in the 1600s.
It's always been there.
It's always been there.
I think it started in the Greek classics.
And, oh my God.
Homer, my God. He made his way through the whole Greek chorus.
Oh, oof.
Kyle did not like that.
Too close to home. It was a boys' chorus. That's the problem.
Kyle, you can't say that.
It's ancient Greece.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, Emily, as the archetype expanded into multiple forms of theater, a soubrette came to mean any frivolous young female role in comedies. So it wasn't necessarily like singing. It was just any like flirtatious, silly little role in a comedy. And it could also describe an actress or singer taking a soubrette role, or one who is known or makes a living in soubrette roles. You would call her a soubrette. Now, Emily, soubrette in the theatrical senses came to English in the mid-1700s, but it came back around to meaning a maid in the early 1800s.
Oh.
So by this point in time, the stereotypes of Colombina and the theatrical soubrette had thoroughly saturated the French maid stereotype. Looking back to pictures of the French, Auguste Delacroix's section on the Parisian lady's maid states, the most youthful, the most smiling, the most enchanting of all these types is Dorine, the charming soubrette, whom everybody knows. Dorine of the sprightly form, the adventurous foot, the hand and eye so mischievous, who, like a good girl, protects the love affair of Marianne and holds out her hand to the gallants.
Wow. Wow.
I wish I could read this entire section on Parisian ladies' maids. It is beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful's a word.
What do you think of it?
Just feels very like all of the characteristics a woman can have that suit men.
Sure. I mean, it was written by a man.
That's what, yeah, absolutely.
That's why he's being nice, you know? That's the only way he knows how to be nice. Mm-hmm. Much like her theatrical counterpart, Emily, the real-life Soubrette was her mistress's confidant, but also, in a way, the true mistress. As Lacroix put it, in truth, all her mistress's secrets, as well of her heart as of her toilette, are known to the lady's maid. The latter it is her business to manage, the former cannot escape her. Her mistress belongs to her, body and soul. It's like this inexorable link. They're tied together, you know? Yeah. One needs one for employment, the other needs one to live.
To survive,
yeah, to survive. For example, Emily, Benjamin Disraeli's novel, The Young Duke, and yes, that is Benjamin Disraeli, who ended up becoming Prime Minister of the UK. He was a novelist first. Crazy guy.
Yeah.
But in The Young Duke, there's a moment where the soubrette tries to raise her lady's mood with some gossip, and it goes on and says, her ladyship reprimands her for her levity, and the soubrette, grown sullen, revenges herself for her mistress's reproof by converting the sleepy process of brushing into the most lively torture.
I feel like that is a trope in romances too. Like I feel like in modern period romances, the lady's maid is often like a very sassy, but also like flirtatious and yeah. I feel like this is all adding up for me.
It's all adding up. Good. Lacroix's profile also shows, Emily, the soubrette as being so close to the mistress that she imitates but does not parody. And she is quite in earnest when she copies her mistress. It is true that like her lady, she lisps, assumes her gait, affects the same manner, the same expressions, the same gestures. So they're so close that disguise, intrigue, who's who, right?
Yeah.
John Collard's novel, The Life and Extraordinary Adventures of James Molesworth Hobart, takes this one step further. The title character is trying to sleep with a mistress. He's trying to get in bed with her.
Yeah.
And so he takes the soubrette in his arms, gives her a kiss, and asks her if she could sneak him in. And she replies, that perhaps might be more than I can promise, but I'll assist you as far as I can. Which is like, all right, that's a very, kind thing to say, right? So the character gets impatient and slips into the apartment himself. He's just like, I can't wait any longer. I'm going to sneak in. Where in the soft embraces of his inamorata, he silently assuaged the perturbation of his spirits. Whatever that means in 1800s lingo, if you know what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Well, Emily, a couple hours pass, and he finally realizes that it was not the mistress that he had just slept with, but the soubrette. And he returns to his room disappointed, but he admits that she had fulfilled her promise in assisting him as far as she was able. So he thought he had no great reason to complain.
There you go. She said, I made no promises.
So I did what I said I would. Emily, over time, by extension, soubrette came to mean an actress who in real life is a cheeky, mischievous, or coquettish person. So, like, the real-life person was like the character.
This is like extensions on extensions.
Yep. Wait, it goes further. And then eventually it came to mean any lively, attractive, flirtatious, or frivolous young woman was a soubrette.
A hoyden.
Right? A hoyden, if you will. Perhaps an example of this is the existence of two different groups of flats known as Soubrette Row, in late 19th century New York City in what would soon become the theater district.
That's so good.
It's good. Do you think you know what these soubrette rows were?
Like apartments where, you're making a face like I'm scared now. I don't know. Oh, like casting directors?
No, unfortunately, they were brothels. It was just rows of brothels.
Sure.
Prostitution houses. One investigator wrote of the soubrette row adjacent to the Metropolitan Opera House, the French girls in these houses resort to unnatural practices, and as a result, the other girls will not associate or eat with them.
Like, they open the door thinking she's doing something lewd and she's practicing witchcraft. The other girls will not go near her.
Bubble, bubble, toilet trouble, am I right? Oh.
But French.
Boubelle, boubelle, boyal. And doyel. Emily, there's a lot to be said about the intersection of theater, maid work, and prostitution, and how these elements possibly conspired to bring us the modern French maid stereotype.
Yeah.
So much to be said. For that, if listeners are interested in more on that subject, I suggest they take a look at a series of comments by the Redditor Gerard Menfin on the Ask Historians subreddit, which does a much better job of scouring French language resources on the subject than I ever could.
That is super interesting. We should link to that in our post.
We absolutely should. And if we're a podcast worth our salt, we have. So click on the link. Emily, but I think this is as good a point as any to stop and ask if you could put the soubrette into your own compromised position by using the word in a sentence.
I don't like that it's a compromising position.
Well, I mean.
Soubrette. The soubrette in Beauty and the Beast was turned into a feather duster.
Beautiful.
Short and
fantastic.
Sweet.
Short and sweet and perfect. We love these soubrettes. Honestly, I love this. I love this.
It's fun. I like the range of meanings that it can have.
Yeah, right?
That's really good.
And they're all really useful and really specific, you know?
Yeah. Even in and out of theater.
Speaking of in and out of theater, are you looking to play a theater game, perhaps?
I am. A theater game. Love it.
It's a movie theater game. And it's called French Maids of Honor. So for this game, I'm going to describe to you some famous stereotypical French maid characters. You'll have to tell me the work that they come from. Okay? First one, although Mrs. White was the housekeeper in the board game, this movie instead featured Yvette, the French maid, who was actually a call girl for Miss Scarlet.
That is Clue.
Clue. Is there a line that Yvette says that is I'm trying to think of what her classic line is.
I was trying to remember who was every time they turned all the lights off, she screamed, but I think that was Eileen Brennan. That was not the maid.
She might have screamed anyway. There's a lot of screaming in that movie. All right, Emily, your next question is, while unnamed in this original Disney film, the French maid turned feather duster went by Fifi in a direct-to-video sequel, Babette in the stage adaptation, and Plumette in the 2017 live-action remake.
Plumette is the best of those. It's Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
How perfect. I was right on the ball.
I mean, it was in our minds. We watched it recently, so.
It's true. It was front of mind.
All right, Emily, 2 more for you. In the Makin' Magic expansion to this PC game, if the French maid Brigitte is to meet the skeleton maid Bonehilda, Brigitte will state, "What kind of a sick joke is this? Why is that skeleton wearing my uniform? Wait a minute, how is that skeleton doing anything at all? I'm out of here, you people are creepy."
Wow. I'm sure I will know it when you say it, but I have no idea.
Think of games where you build houses and make people do things. Live their lives.
The Sims?
The Sims, Emily!
Do people have... they say... I guess a word bubble would come up.
Yes, a word bubble comes up.
I was they don't have dialogue. They speak Simlish.
Yeah.
Is that the original Sims game?
The expansion to the original.
Oh, yeah. Right.
All right, Emily, one more. In this film, the maid Magenta, along with her brother Riff Raff, serve a meal made out of the remains of delivery boy Eddie, ironically, or perfectly, played by singer Meatloaf.
Oh, when Eddie said he didn't like his teddy. That's Rocky Horror.
It's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Emily, you're 4 for 4.
Guess I don't think about Magenta being the maid, because no one in that is doing a job.
Sure.
Just singing.
Well, she's her costume wise at least is
sure,
soubrette inspired.
Yeah.
That's it, Emily. Nice job.
Great game. Great word. Really
Thank
fun.
you, Emily. I'm really happy with this one.
Love it. And everyone, remember you can watch us on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips. And you can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media as well, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. If you liked today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really liked today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Kyle Imperator.
I've been Emily Moyers, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Emily Moyers, and myself, Kyle Imperator. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.